Okay, think about the last thing you bought online. I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about the incredible, invisible journey it took to get to you? From a factory, maybe halfway across the world, all the way to your doorstep? Well, that whole complex system, that's called logistics. And in this explainer, we're going to see how it's basically the engine that makes our entire global economy run. At its very core, this is the question. This is the fundamental problem logistics has to solve every single day for, billions and billions of products. Answering this question means mastering a process that, and I'm not exaggerating, literally makes modern life possible. So to really wrap our heads around this, let's start with a clear, universal definition. What are we actually talking about when we use the word logistics? All right, here it is. Logistics is the process of planning, implementing, and controlling the flow of, well, everything. We're not just talking about goods, but also services and, crucially, all the information that tracks them. Those three actions, planning, implementing, and controlling, that's the heart of it all. See, this is so much more than just moving boxes. It's a discipline of intense precision and looking ahead. We can actually map this out in a pretty simple flow. It all starts at the point of origin. So think of a factory or a farm. From there, goods usually move into storage, like a warehouse, and then finally, they finish their journey at the point of consumption, with you, the customer. That's the physical backbone of the whole thing. But what's the end goal here? What's the point of all this complexity? Well, this entire system with all its moving parts can actually be boiled down to a single, powerful objective. People in the industry often call it the 5 rights of logistics. And here they are. The goal is to get the right product to the right customer, at the right place, and at the right time, and all for the right cost. Getting all 5 of these correct, that's the sign of a truly effective logistics system. You miss even one, and believe me, the whole chain can start to crumble. Okay, so now that we've got the basic framework down, let's see how it applies in the real world. We're going to zoom in on a specific and incredibly dynamic place, the African continent. Because here, good logistics isn't just about convenience. It is a powerful, powerful engine for economic change. And this quote really says it all. In the African context, logistics plays a critical role in economic development. You can almost think of it like the circulatory system for the economy, right? It's what connects all the resources, the producers, and the markets across a massive and diverse continent. So what does this actually look like for people on the ground? Well, it looks like a farmer being able to get their fresh produce from a rural farm to a busy city market before it goes bad. It looks like a small business that can suddenly use a delivery service to reach customers way outside their own neighborhood. For them, logistics isn't some abstract idea, it's a lifeline. But as you can probably guess, trying to build this perfect system in the real world comes with some pretty major challenges. The landscape itself, both physically and economically, presents some very specific hurdles that have to be overcome. You've really got 3 major obstacles standing in the way. First, there's underdeveloped infrastructure, which can make just physically moving things incredibly difficult. Second, you have these huge distances between where things are produced in rural areas and the urban centers where they're sold. And finally, when you combine those 2 things, you get unbelievably high transportation costs, which can just crush a small business. But this is where the story gets really, really exciting. Because in the face of all these challenges, you're seeing this incredible wave of innovation rising up to meet them head on. And it's all being driven by technology and local entrepreneurship. This chart just lays it out perfectly. To get around poor physical infrastructure, entrepreneurs are using mobile technology. We're talking GPS tracking, marketplace apps, digital payments to create entirely new networks. And to battle those high costs and long distances, they're building these nimble, local delivery startups that create super efficient solutions, especially for that critical last mile of delivery. So here's the big takeaway. These innovative digital solutions are basically creating a kind of virtual infrastructure. They're building a digital bridge over the gaps where physical roads and railways might be missing. This means technology isn't just improving logistics here. In a lot of places, it's making it possible for the very first time. And all of this leaves us with a fascinating and pretty profound question. As these technologies grow and scale, they're doing a lot more than just moving goods around. They are fundamentally redrawing the economic map of Africa. So the question isn't just about packages and trucks anymore. It's about how this new map of movement will define the future of an entire continent. All right, today we're tackling a massive topic, logistics in Africa. Specifically, we're going to look at the foundational pillars of transport, the very systems that keep the continent's economy moving. It's a huge piece of the puzzle, so let's get right into it. Okay, so first things first, we have to set the stage. When you hear the word logistics, what comes to mind? Well,
Let me tell you, transportation isn't just a part of logistics, it's the absolute heart of it. You could even call it the central nervous system. If it stops, everything, and I mean everything, grinds to a halt. So, at its most basic level, yeah, transportation is just moving stuff from one place to another. Simple, right? But in the world of logistics, it's so much more than that. Think of it as the literal backbone of the entire supply chain. If that backbone isn't strong and efficient, the whole system just crumbles. So, now that we've established just how crucial this is, the big question is, how does it all actually work on the ground? Well, it really boils down to four main ways of getting things around, four primary modes of transport, and each one plays a totally different but vital role. And here they are, the big four: road, rail, air, and sea. These are your fundamental options. They are the pillars holding up the entire structure. Whether you're trying to move a tiny high-tech component across a city or thousands of tons of grain across an ocean, one of these four is gonna be your answer. Okay, but here's where things get really interesting. It's one thing to talk about these pillars in theory, but how do they actually function in the unique context of Africa? Because as we're about to see, each one faces its own specific set of opportunities and some pretty massive challenges. So let's break them down one by one. Let's start with road transport. And honestly, there's no better way to describe it than as the continent's main artery. It's the circulatory system. For pretty much all domestic and regional trade, it's the trucks on the road that are the lifeblood, connecting farmers to markets, factories to towns, and people to goods. And right away, you see this fundamental trade-off. On the one hand, you get this amazing flexibility. A truck can go almost anywhere, reaching remote villages that are completely cut off from any other form of modern transport. But, and this is a big but, you're constantly fighting against huge infrastructure problems. We're talking poorly maintained roads, cities completely gridlocked with traffic, all of which adds up to frustrating and very costly delays. All right, next up, pillar number 2, rail. Now, rail plays a very different, much more strategic role. This is the bulk mover. If you need to haul massive volumes of goods over long distances, we're talking things like minerals, timber, grain, then rail is the absolute undisputed champion. So, what's the big advantage here? It's pure economics. On a per-ton basis, for the right kind of cargo, nothing can touch the cost-effectiveness of rail. But the challenge, it's the network itself. Development across the continent is, well, it's patchy, to say the least. A lot of the lines are old colonial relics that are desperate for an upgrade. And get this, different national systems often use different gauges, meaning they literally can't connect with each other. It makes seamless cross-border trade a logistical nightmare. Moving on to our third pillar, air transport. This one is all about one thing, and one thing only: speed. This is the express route, the premium option. It's reserved for goods that are either super high value or incredibly time sensitive, where getting from point A to point B as fast as humanly possible is the absolute top priority. And the trade-off here is incredibly stark. What you get is unmatched speed. A journey that would take weeks by sea can be done in just a few hours by air. The catch? You guessed it, the cost. It can be absolutely prohibitive. That's why you only see it used for really specific, high-stakes cargo. Think life-saving pharmaceuticals, valuable electronics, or even something like fresh flowers that need to get from a farm in Kenya to a market in Europe, like overnight. And that brings us to our fourth and final pillar: sea transport. You really can't overstate this one. Sea transport is Africa's gateway to the rest of the globe. It's the primary channel for almost all international trade, physically connecting the continent's economies to markets all over the world. To put it simply, without sea transport, large-scale international trade just wouldn't happen. But this creates a massive dependency on one thing: port infrastructure. The efficiency of the entire system, for both imports and exports, hinges on how well those ports operate. Any kind of bottleneck there, whether it's congestion, customs delays, or old equipment, doesn't just slow things down at the port. It sends shockwaves back through an entire nation's supply chain. Okay, so we've looked at all four pillars, right? Road, rail, air, and sea. Now let's switch gears and get practical. If you're a business, how in the world do you decide which one to use? As you can probably guess, it's not just a random choice. It's a very calculated, very strategic decision. Think of it like a decision matrix, or maybe a puzzle. You're trying to choose the right mode of transport by balancing multiple factors that are often pushing and pulling against each other.
It's all about finding that one perfect solution for very specific shipment at a specific time. And really, it almost always boils down to three key variables. First, you have that classic trade-off we've been talking about, cost versus speed. How much are you willing to pay to get it there faster? Then there's accessibility. I mean, can your chosen method of transport even get to the final destination? A giant container ship obviously can't deliver to a landlocked city in the middle of the continent. And that's why, in reality, most shipments aren't just one mode, they're multimodal. Maybe starting on a ship, getting transferred to a train, and then having a truck handle that crucial final leg of the journey. And this all leads us to our final and maybe most important question, one that's really about the future. We've seen the strengths and weaknesses of each of these four pillars. But as things change, as intra-African trade grows with initiatives like the African Continental Free Trade Area, and as global supply chains continue to shift and evolve, which one of these pillars will be the most critical? Will it be the go-anywhere flexibility of road, the sheer bulk capacity of rail, the incredible speed of air, or the global reach of sea? Which one will truly define the continent's logistical future? That is the billion-dollar question that policymakers and businesses are grappling with right now.
So academically speaking, information flow is just the movement of data. But what does that mean? What kind of data are we talking about? Well, it's literally everything. It's the initial order a customer places, it's the real-time tracking pings coming off of a delivery truck, and it's that final "your package has been delivered" email. Without that constant stream of information, the whole system is basically flying blind.
You can really boil this data down to three key parts. First, you've got the what. That's the customer's order. Then you have the where and when. That's all the shipment tracking. And finally, you've got the link that holds it all together. That direct business-to-customer communication. I mean, if you get these right, everything is clear. But if you get them wrong, well, you've got chaos.
And there's a really brilliant modern example of this happening right now. In a lot of African countries, this whole complex nervous system runs on something most of us have in our pocket, a smartphone. Businesses are literally taking orders on WhatsApp, sending out delivery updates, and managing their customer relationships all through simple messaging apps. It's just a fantastic example of how technology can leapfrog traditional infrastructure to create a super agile and efficient flow of information. Okay, so that brings and demand.
And the formal definition here really gets to the heart of the challenge. It's about controlling your stock to meet what your customers want, but, and this is the absolute key, doing it while keeping your costs as low as possible. And this is exactly where all that data from our first pillar, the information flow, gets turned directly into either profit or loss.
So, the name of the game is navigating this constant tension. See, on one hand, you have to avoid shortages, because that means lost sales and unhappy customers. But on the other hand, you can't overstock, because that just ties up your money, capital that could be working for you somewhere else. The real goal is to find that sweet spot, that perfect balance for peak efficiency.
Let's just look at what happens when you get this balance wrong. If you have too much inventory, your money is just sitting there on a shelf, not doing anything, and you're paying to store it. But having too little inventory, that can be even worse. You don't just lose one sale. You risk damaging that customer's trust in you, maybe for good, and that's way more expensive in the long run.
And this quote really grounds the whole concept in reality. Think about it. For a small township retailer who has limited funds, this balancing act isn't some abstract business theory. It is literally the difference between staying open and closing down. Every single item on that shelf has to earn its keep.
Which brings us perfectly to its most basic level. Warehousing is just storing goods. But it's really more than that. It represents this critical, planned pause in the supply chain. It's that moment between getting the goods and sending them out to customers, and it's all designed to make the whole process more efficient. Really, its job is threefold. First, simple storage. Second, it's about protection. From damage, from going bad, from theft. And third, and this is maybe the most important part, is organization. I mean, think about it. You can't fulfill an order quickly if you have no idea where the product is, right? That organization is the physical result of having good data and smart inventory management. It's where the first two pillars come to life.
And just like we saw with the other pillars, warehousing in the African context is incredibly diverse. It can be anything from these massive, modern distribution centers to, a small storage room used by one of those same informal traders taking orders on WhatsApp. The scale is totally different, but the core function? It's exactly the same.
So there you have it, our Want to get technical about it, packaging is the process of getting goods ready for everything from storage to delivery, with the main goal of protecting them from damage. At its core, its number one job is protection, making sure that item arrives in perfect condition. But, modern logistics is a lot more complicated than that. Besides just protection, packaging has to be cost-effective, and that is a constant balancing act. But here's the really cool part, its massive role in branding. Think about the whole unboxing experience. That is the first physical handshake between a customer and the brand. It's a really powerful moment that can turn a simple delivery into something memorable.
And this is a brilliant illustration of how strategy has to adapt to reality. In places where keeping costs down is the top priority, you'll see smart solutions like simple, tough materials or even reusable bags. It's not about being flashy. It's a super pragmatic approach that nails both efficiency and sustainability. You can kind of think of material handling as the circulatory system of a warehouse. It's every single physical move, loading, unloading, sorting, organizing. Getting this right is so important. Do it efficiently and you save time, prevent damage, and keep the entire operation flowing just like it should.
Now, what's fascinating is how different the approach to material handling can be. On one hand, you have these massive scale operations investing a ton of money in automation, forklifts, giant conveyor systems. It's a huge upfront cost, but they get speed and consistency. On the other hand, in different contexts, like for some African businesses, handling is done manually. Now, this isn't a lesser approach at all. It's just a different strategy, one that optimizes for flexibility and lower investment where labor is more accessible. Each system is a perfectly logical fit for its own unique environment.
Really great customer service and logistics boils down to these key pillars. Yeah, getting the package there on time is huge, but it's also about clear, proactive communication, solving problems effectively when they pop up, and at the end of the day, building a foundation of trust that leads to real customer satisfaction.
And here's the crucial point. In places with logistical hurdles, whether that's traffic, tricky infrastructure, you name it, communication becomes even more critical. Proactively telling a customer about a potential delay isn't a failure. It's actually a powerful way to manage their expectations and strengthen their trust in you.
Here it is, the 5 key stages from the moment an order comes in to the final delivery. You can see packing, which we just talked about, is that critical third step, right after picking. And material handling, well, that's the invisible thread that connects all these physical stages, moving everything smoothly through to transportation and delivery.
And it is so essential to look at this as a single, connected chain, not just a bunch of separate jobs. A weakness in any one of these links, whether it's sloppy packaging or slow handling, can compromise the entire process and really sour the customer's overall experience. And that brings us to a final thought. We're in an age where customers expect things faster than ever, with total transparency. And technology, from automation to AI, is evolving at a dizzying pace. So where should businesses focus their innovation? Is it in smarter packaging, more automated handling, or maybe a customer service model that can actually predict problems? Which of these links do you think will define the industry leaders of tomorrow?